Hello, and welcome to the MyHeritage webinar series. I'm Jeff Rasmussen, your host. I'm broadcasting to you live from Middleton, Idaho. And today on the lineup, we've got printing charts and books on MyHeritage. Today is going to be just a bit different, and I've learned about this just in the last few minutes. Uri Gonen will unfortunately and apologetically won't be able to be with us here today. And so with my thinking cap on, we've come up with a plan for all of you. By the way, there's more than 1,300 of you who have registered for the live webinar, and you come to us from 36 countries, it looks like here, from around the world. So, so happy to have all of you here with us. In exchange for missing out on having Uri live with us here, we actually had Uri with us live on a very similar topic about 2.5 years ago or so, and I've got that video queued up here to have a watch party together with you today. And so those of you who will benefit from this are, of course, those who never caught it the first time, and it was very good and very well received, and we will all learn about charts and reports together, and as well as those of you who were here previously but always benefit from a refresher. So that's what we're going to do today. If I can remember, well, we're still going to do door prizes afterwards. Maybe I'll throw in 1 or 2 additional door prizes to thank you for your understanding. So what I'm hoping is I'm going to bring the video over to this monitor, and I'm going to hit the play button, and my guess is it is going to work flawlessly. I'll have the volume up, and if for some reason it's not going to work for you, I'll also put a link in the chat for you to go and view the replay, and you can catch that anytime. So thanks everyone for writing in saying saying that you do understand this, and thanks Maria for your comments there as well. Okay, so sit back, relax. I hope you've got a bowl of popcorn. Maybe you've got MyHeritage open on your other monitor or on a laptop or in another window where we can all follow along together. So with that as the introduction, here is Uri Gonen.
So visualizing, organizing, sharing is what all charts and reports are about. It's also a good way to check that you have all the data and what are you missing. By looking at one good chart or the report allows you to get a good understanding of your family tree and the state of your research. We'll learn today about the different types of charts and reports that are available, when to use each type, and how to create them. Remind everybody, charts and reports, among most of the features on MyHeritage, are free to all MyHeritage users. You can always create a family tree on MyHeritage for free, use charts and reports for free. These are available both from our website, myheritage.com, when you create a tree there, and also if you're using Family Tree Builder, there are many of those reports that are available directly from Family Tree Builder. Charts and reports have been around in MyHeritage for a very long time. It's one of the cornerstones of our products. I've been involved personally in a lot of the development and management of those features a long time ago. We've been adding a few recently, and we will always update and create more such reports and charts in the future. So let's go ahead and see how you reach and create those charts and reports from myheritage.com, from the online site. So this is here my tree. From the family tree menu, which I opened here, to get to the family tree itself, you click on family tree. But if you go to the more link at the bottom, it will expand a few more options. And what we're going to talk about today is mostly in this section called print charts and books. So it allows you to create a chart or a book report and then print it. So let's go ahead and click that link, and what you will see is this page that outlines the different charts and books that are available online on myheritage.com family site that you create for yourself. And you can see here that there are several types of charts that you can select from. And the last one is what we call a family book, which is more of a book report. And what we'll do today is go over those different charts and books and see what they are, how to create them, and how to customize them. When we'll start with the bow tie, and the bow tie is the first and probably the most popular type of chart. It shows basically a couple, a husband and a wife, the husband's ancestor spanning to the left, and you can see here from this example, the ancestors of the wife spanning to the right, and children between them. So this is a great chart, especially for your children. It tells them where they came from, who are their parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, and so on. When you scroll down to the second section of the screen, after you've selected the type of chart, you will see that you can now select the style of the chart. And we have quite a few nice defined styles that involve background colors and background images and styles of frames and colors and all that you can choose from. So you can scroll here and see which one you would want to use. And you can always, and I'll show a bit later, how you can customize that as well to create exactly the look that you want. So in this bow tie, you select who is the husband and wife that are the focus of the chart. By default, it's going to be yourself, as you usually are someone in the family tree, but you can then go and select a different one, and I'll show you that in other charts. There are several options that you can customize from here, and a lot more from the advanced options. So let's just accept the defaults here, myself, my wife, what type of information to show about each person. In this case, both the dates and places of births and deaths of those people. And you can see here that there is other options of less information if you want. How many generations of ancestors to show, and let's go and generate the chart. So you click on Generate Chart. It takes you to a page that shows you all your previous charts, and you can see that now this chart is being created. It can take, I remember when I created that one, it took, I think, about 10 seconds, so it's quite fast. Some larger charts can take more. In any case, you will be emailed when the chart is ready. If you don't want to wait here, if it's a big chart, and then follow the link from the email, which would take you back to this page. Once the chart is created, you will see here is your bow tie that you requested. And you can see a small image here that represents how this chart looks. And then when you just click it, or click the link called View PDF, which is basically the output, a PDF file. You click it and you see this chart has been created. I'm showing only part of it because it's a bit large to show on the screen. So here's myself. Now you know all the information about me here. My lovely wife, our children, my parents, his parents, and so on. And on the same side for my wife. So this is a great chart for your children especially. It shows you their heritage, which is exactly what we do here. And you can see here the style was one of the styles that I selected. Of course, there's many other ones and many ways to customize that as well. So this is the first chart, a bow tie chart, as we said. Let's go back to the screen that we were in the beginning, and let's look at other types of charts. So the next one is what we call the close family. And the close family chart shows and allows you to print very similar organization of what you see in the family tree when you edit the tree, what we call the family view. And this is the close family chart, which is in a way a PDF version of it. So it would show you a person and going all the way to his grandparents and then going down to their descendants. So you will also see brothers and sisters, cousins, uncles and aunts, and so on, and also ancestors. So this is a way to focus on a person and the important relatives of this person. And this chart has two modes. One what we call a vertical, which is what you see here, which kind of look horizontal really, because it creates a more of a landscape version, but vertical in the sense that ancestors are above their descendants. You can also go and choose horizontal, which will do the opposite, and here children are to the left of their parents. So the most common one would be the vertical. And here I'm clicking on the link here in red, which is the advanced customization options, which is available for any type of chart, not just the close family, but let's look at it here. When you click here, you'll see that it's a long list of options. And in the first part, you can see which facts to show about each person, which we also saw in the basic screen. You can also decide whether to show photos or not, and whether to show silhouettes or what we call placeholders for people who don't have a photo, how large are the photos, and then things about the design of each person, whether to show what we call stylish, which is a box around the photo and the text underneath, or traditional, which I think I have here, which is a box around the entire person, and you can choose the border and the color of the border and the shadow and the colors for based on gender. So it's quite sophisticated. So you can go here and create a very specific look that you would like. And there's no limit on how many you can create. You can create, you like it, great. You don't like it, you can delete it or just keep it there. Below that, there is a section for the title, very different types of decorations that you can choose from for the title of the chart. The fonts you can select, colors of the fonts, types of fonts, and then the background of the chart. You can select from predefined images that we provide. You can just have regular background color. You can even give us a URL where you have an image that you maybe uploaded or you have that we can use as the background image. And also the transparency level and whether to fit the image or scale it or tile it. Quite complicated, quite sophisticated, something you would expect in a mature software like MyHeritage. So let's go ahead and create a chart like this. This is the example of the types of frames that we have and the types of colors that we have and so on, and the width. And let's create one. So here is a family chart, what we call. So here is myself, the same family, but now I'm seeing my brother and my two brothers and their families and cousins and all the ancestors that I have and so on. So this is very much like what you would see in the family view portion of the tree where you edit the tree. Now you can print it as well with different styles as well. So this was the family chart. Next is the ancestors chart. So this is a common thing that people would like to print, just concentrating on ancestors, the ancestors of a person. And again, we have a vertical layout in which the ancestors appear above people, and the horizontal, in which ancestors appear to the right of their descendants. And here it's actually very similar to the layout that we now have in what we call the pedigree view for editing your tree. Although because of the way a card is organized, it's a bit more tall than how you would see it in the pedigree view. But basically it's the same type of information. So if you want to print your pedigree view, this is how you do it. You go to the charts and go to ancestors, horizontal or vertical, and print. Create a chart and then you can print it. So let's look at a little bit more. So here, let's say I'm creating an ancestor chart, but here I don't want ancestors of myself, but rather I want ancestors of somebody else. So in the section below where I choose the styles, I can now start typing in a name, and here I'm typing in my son's name. So he will get my ancestors and my wife's ancestors. So I can, once I find the person that I want, I click, and then I can go and generate the chart. And here is an example of ancestor chart, and you can see here that I selected many generations up of my son. We're seeing here only the left side of the chart. The right, it's quite a large chart, doesn't fit the screen, so the whole right side is my wife's side, which is his ancestors from my wife's side. So here you can see a nice ancestor chart, how you would expect to see it. And here, for example, I chose without a background image in a different style, so you can see that it looks a bit different. Maybe more readable, maybe less pretty, but it depends on what you're trying to achieve here. So this was Ancestor's chart. In the same way, we have what we call the Descendants chart, which is the opposite. You're taking a person and showing himself, his children, his grandchildren, their spouses as well, in order to connect everybody. So this is the opposite view, where we're showing the bottom part of a chart. And again, there is a vertical and a horizontal view. But let's move on to the next one, which is the hourglass chart. And the hourglass chart is the one that combines basically ancestors and descendants. So given a person, you can see all their heritage and all their legacy, which is quite fitting to this webinar here. Because you will see where you came from and what you're leaving behind. And again, there is a vertical view where ancestors appear above, or a horizontal view where it's the opposite direction. So let's here again select a person as the root of this hourglass. And in this case, I'm choosing my grandmother. And when I generate the chart, and after a few seconds, I will see a chart that looks like this. So here is my grandmother, and I have an arrow pointing to her here. And below her are her children, and her grandchildren, her great-grandchildren. And above, I see ancestors of herself, and ancestors also of her husband, which is my grandfather. So in a way, it's a chart that actually shows the descendants and the ancestors of her children, my mother and her brothers. So this is a great way to kind of look at the legacy and the ancestry of a person, of a family in a way, of a unit. So this I find actually to be a very useful chart that is nice for things like family reunions and the like, where you can look at everything that this person has done and where he came from. Okay, let's actually skip the sun chart and fan chart that I will look at later because they are a little different, and let's move on to the all-in-one chart. The all-in-one chart is something pretty unique to MyHeritage. The other charts is pretty standard and available in other softwares and websites. It's industry standard, so to speak. The all-in-one is an ambitious attempt to try to create a chart that includes everybody in the tree. And usually the challenges there are to do with in-laws, where you have like trees inside trees that grow kind of shoots. And that's quite a challenge how to present that. So let's try to do that and see what that looks like. So again, you do select who is the focus point of the chart. And from there, everything spans out. So again, I'm going to select my grandmother and see what happens when I do this chart. So after a few minutes, and this took some time to create because it's quite a large tree, the result was something like this. It looks a little bit like a subway map or some flow chart of an electrical diagram because it's quite complicated and quite large. So sometimes not that useful for printing, but definitely for looking at and seeing everybody and how they're related. And I have an arrow here to show where I started from. This is my grandmother. And if I go and zoom in a bit, I can see here her and her parents above, quite a lot above, and her husband and his family. These are the in-laws that create a subtree, and in-laws and more in-laws. So because of that, it creates quite a complicated chart, which we are giving you the opportunity to create for free again on MyHeritage and see how your entire family looks in a giant subway map with all the stations. Now let's move back in our list and look at fan charts. So fan charts are a bit different because until now we've seen charts that basically are kind of like flow charts where you have a person is a kind of a node and lines connecting in different ways based on the layout that you looked at. Fan charts are different. Again, they're pretty standard among genealogy software and websites. There's nothing very unique here, but we supply that, of course, as part of the tool chest that we provide you on MyHeritage. So a fan chart, again, there is an ancestor fan chart where you see yourself or whoever you choose in the middle, and a fan spanning from that person to the left is your father, to the right is your mother, and so on with grandparents and great-grandparents. So here again, I'm selecting my son in this case, and this is similar to what we saw before in the ancestor chart. Here it's an ancestor fan chart with the same information. You see, it doesn't have photos. It's a little bit more bland, but it's very useful sometimes in order to do research because you can see what you're missing, what information you need to do research about, what are the people that you still don't have, and you can see these empty great ancestors that I don't have information about, and maybe this is a good way to find out who they are. Going to the descendants, the same way, who are all the descendants of this person viewed as a fan chart. So here again, I'm selecting, in this case, my great-great-grandfather, and after a minute or so, it produced this fan chart, and here I selected a green background color, why not? So this is him and his wife at the center, and then his children and great and grandchildren and so on in rings around him. So this is the Descendants fan chart. Again, useful, especially when you're trying to do the research of this branch of the family going down. But now let's go back to sun chart, which was something that I elaborated on also in a previous webinar, because this is a pretty unique and pretty new type of chart that we introduced not long ago. So sun chart shows you either the descendants of a person, and this is what we're looking at now, or the ancestors of a person in a similar way that we just saw with fan charts, but just that the layout is different and the richness is different. And because of that, I think this is a much more pretty way to look at the tree, something that you would more likely want to print and hang on the wall, potentially. So let's look at the Descendants version. And I'm selecting here, again, my great-grandfather. And in this case, showing all generations, not limiting to any number of generations. And in this case, it works a little different. All the other charts that we saw, you click on this button called Generate Chart, wait and wait and wait, and get a PDF. And if you want to change some of the settings, you have to go back, change the setting, click, wait, and go back. This one works a bit differently. It was developed more recently. Instead, you see a few options here that we saw. You click on Preview Chart, and it now works a bit and shows you the chart that you can now create a PDF of. So once you're happy with the settings, then you can create a PDF, which takes a bit longer. So here we are looking at the person that we've selected and his wife. And you can see here that instead of appearing as slices, they appear as circles with their photo and their name and whatever information that I selected that I want to show, in this case, year of birth and year of death only. But again, I can select full dates of birth and death, also places of birth and death if I want. And so it's pretty rich from that perspective as well. And you can see that it appears kind of like a solar system in a way, which is what we call sun chart. We see a person and in rings around him, shining around him, all his descendants. So this is very nice. If you do want to change the settings, you can click on the settings button at the top right, which will open a panel that shows you can change the title of the chart, how many generations, again, how much information to show about each person. There is also an interesting option to privatize living people, which if you choose that, then information about living people will only include their surname. Just like what happened if you're looking at somebody else's family tree on MyHeritage and you're not a member of that site, then the only thing you can see is their surnames of living people. So if you do want to print something and also send it to people who are not necessarily people that you want to expose information about living people, then this is the only chart right now that we have that support that option. You can change the size of the text, the size of the photos, whether to show spouses of descendants or not. And another very unique option here is the compactness of the chart. So I'll give you some idea here if you click on the difference between high and low compactness. The one on the right is what we saw before, is the high compactness. And you can see that it actually will become a smaller chart to print and more dense. However, the one disadvantage of it is sometimes descendants do not appear very close to their parents because of the way that the tree is built, where some people have more children than others. So that will cause some of the children to appear a little bit to the side of their parents, and could be harder to read sometimes, but it has an advantage of smaller paper at the end for printing and smaller size of a poster to print. And here is after you generate the chart, you get a high quality PDF that you can now print. Just a side anecdote about sun charts. This is actually an idea that we stumbled upon while doing one of our pro bono research programs, which we do quite a lot of. This was about a Jewish community in Greece, in the island of Corfu, that we saw that they have been using for years this system of documenting family tree in something that looks like the image here on the right. And we decided to adopt that and give that as a tool for all our users on MyHeritage, digitized, more with options of photos and so on, so it's a lot more visually pleasing. So now we know how to create these charts, and we said that you can print those charts, but one of the services that we also provide is to order a poster on a large piece of paper, something that is much harder for you to do at home. So once we go back to that list of charts that you have produced, which you can always go back to by clicking on My Charts, and let's go back to that page. So going back a little bit. If I was in the first page of my presentation, let's go back to it. You see here there is a link called My Charts. If I go here, I can bypass creating a chart and go into the list of all the charts that I have created in the past. So let's jump back to the screen that I was in. Okay, so now that I have a chart, and here's all the charts that I've created, and I can click here, Order Poster. And when I do that, I will go to a screen that allows me to select the size of the printout. And we have certain sizes of plotter papers that we work with. So we try to fit it into that size. So if you use the smaller paper, it will be a 51% reduction in this case of your chart. And this convenient image here shows you how it would fit in your living room. So this is what you can expect the size to look like. In this example here, you can also go to a bigger size of paper, and that would be with 100%, so no reduction in size, but much bigger poster. You can also choose the quality of the paper, vinyl, glossy, matte, canvas, different sizes, different types of paper that we work with, which will affect, of course, the price. And then once you continue, fill in your credit card information and shipping address, it would send this to our plotters. We use a third party that produces these things for us, and be sent home to you. So you can now hang it above that sofa. But if you do want to print at home, one option that we have at the bottom of every one of those customized chart sections is whether you want to print it in a single page, which is what we saw before, which allows you to print it as a poster, or allows you to print it in a printer, but if you use regular paper, it'll tend to shrink it into that small paper. So instead, you would want to use multiple pages, and you can select your printer size, which is usually letter, or in Europe, it's a little bit different. And then when you generate a chart like this, actually what happens, and I'm looking here at an example, is it actually creates a PDF with multiple pages. So it's convenient for printing, and each page has a part, and then you can go and glue it together with sellotape and create this big printout that you can use. Okay, so we finished with charts, and now let's move on to what we call a family book, which is a report, really, not a chart, that we provide on our site on MyHeritage. So let's go to the last option here, family book. The family book is a detailed and professional compilation of the family tree. It includes many different sections, narratives about each person in the tree or in the part of the tree that you're looking at, with photographs and indexes and a lot of information. It's a great way to kind of capture your research and present it to others as well. So if we scroll down here after selected family book, again, who is the focal point of your book? And in this case, I again selected one of my great-grandparents. And you can see here that there's many different sections to this book, and you can choose which ones you want or do not want in that report. Again, paper size, because it does print it as a book, so usually you would go with letter, and then you would click Generate Book. Here, it usually takes a bit more time to run this book and create the PDF, because it's looking at a pretty large set of people and pretty large amount of information about each one. But when this is finished, you would get a PDF file that has many, many pages, and here is how it looks like in the example that I had. It shows you here is a book about this person, and here is a table of contents, and I can scroll down, and there is this Descendants sort of chart about this person, and then you can have details about every person in that person, all these relatives of his, so his wife, his children, his parents, his nieces and nephews, and everybody that is related to him. And for each one, a lot of information, narratives, notes, their children, dates, and everything. And also then there is small trees about the family tree around that person. So this case is myself, my family, little family tree, my brother, and so on and so on. And then there is an index of all the notes, and the index of all the sources, and the index of all the places. So it's quite extensive, as you can see. And again, you can decide to not have some of the sections as we saw before. Dates as well in chronological order. This is a pretty sophisticated book that I think is very handy. So this was the book report, and we pretty much finished all the different types of charts and books that are available in that section called Print Charts and Books. Another report that we have on the site is in a different area. It's called a relationship report. And what it does, and when I select relationship report, it takes me to a simple screen where I select what we call the source individual and the target individual. Usually the source would be yourself, but you can again select somebody else. And then you start typing in the name of another person, and it'll find people with that name. And once you select that, then you click on Display Relationship, and you can select the amount of details you want to show about each person. It will show you in a kind of a graph how the two of you are related. So in this case, he is the husband of the daughter of the father of the mother of my mother. So, and then at the bottom, which I show here in a box because I don't have enough room to show that in this slide, it explains how you are related. And exactly what I showed here, I mean, more of a bullet list of how the relationships are. So this is especially useful when you have somebody farther away and you want to understand how you are related or how he is related to somebody else in the tree. So this is a more of a pinpoint report when you're trying to figure out something in your tree that you're not sure of. So this concludes the part of the reports that are available on myheritage.com. Through Family Tree Builder, our genealogy software, available again for free for Windows and Mac. All the charts that I showed you are available as well, except for the sun charts, which are only available online. And it also includes more reports, not just the book report. It also includes other more standard reports like family group sheets, full relationship reports, and I'll show some of them here. And it also allows you to create an Excel report that lists people in your tree, what information you want about them, and export it outside, and then you can do research using this spreadsheet. So let's look at how this is done. So in Family Tree Builder, if you go to the Charts section button here, you can either open a menu that allows you to choose all of the things that you see here, or click on what we call the Charts Wizard, which will bring you here, which looks very much like what we saw online. Again, you select the type of chart, who is the person in the middle, styles, and then you can select, advanced customizations. And at the end, you will basically produce the exact same charts that we saw before. If you go to the report section, there is a menu that has some of the reports that we saw before, the book report, but also other reports that are only available on Family Tree Builder. One of them is the classic family group sheet that allows you to see information about a husband, a wife, and all their children, with areas where you can see this is what I'm missing, so it's easy to take this and fill it out and then go back to the software or the site and fill in the information. Another useful report that you have only on Family Tree Builder today is a list of all the relationships that a person has to other people. So what we saw before in that nice map of how two people are related, here you can see a long list of how is everybody related to somebody in the tree, sorted by how far they are in that relationship. So direct relations, then secondary relations, and so on. Other types of reports are in a way subsections of that large book report that we saw. So you can create a report of a person and his ancestors in this kind of format, which shows you narratives and important facts and relatives of that person. The same thing you can do by selecting a person and doing only their descendants. The previous one was ancestors. And lastly, I wanted to show how you can create a Excel spreadsheet, or actually before that, those reports that I'm showing you here, the descendants and ancestors and so on, have many customization options, what content to show, whether to show sources, and how to actually refer to sources, and a numbering system of all the people. There are different types of numbering systems that people use. We have our own, and there's other ones as well that you can choose from. So if you have Family Tree Builder and you're an advanced user, this is a good way to create these reports, and you can go to the report options and see how elaborate they are. Lastly, to show that you can also export a custom report, which is basically an Excel of either all people or some people, and you can select ancestors or descendants of a person, or do a search criteria, an advanced one that will kind of filter down their list of people based on names and dates and so on, very elaborate. And then which fields to show about each person, the standard ones, or now you can go into this select button and say, I also want occupation, and I also want ancestral file number, and all kinds of things like that based on what type of information you have in your tree. And once you click OK, we create an Excel spreadsheet, and here it is. So now you can go and save that and work within Excel to do your research and continue there. So this is pretty much it in my presentation. Any questions? Jeff will now take over, I guess.
Fantastic, Uri Gonen. Let me bring this back over here to my screen now. Hopefully you're all able to hear me now. You know, as I was watching that, I'm reminded of how much we really have invested in building and documenting our family trees. And with charts and books, it's our opportunity to display the fruits of our labor. And this reminds me, and let me just see if I can turn on my webcam just for a little bit more fun here. Didn't think I was going to do it, so I didn't shave or anything. Excuse me. Well, so the chart that I've got in my office, hanging up on the wall, in my home office, not right here, is a large bow tie style chart with. It's got me on the left, and it's got my wife on the right, and our children going down the middle. And it really is a conversation piece, and it's enjoyable when others come over to view it. One thing about that chart, though, is once you've got that printed and hanging on the wall, if something changes on the chart or needs to change, as in I'll tell you what happened. So on my wife's side of the tree, when our second son was about to be born, we were looking at her side of the tree to find out which ancestor we should name him after, and we found her ancestor, William Hague, and he was the end of line ancestor. Well, so we named our son after William. Well, as I started doing the research on my wife's side of the tree, I quickly learned that William was not her ancestor after all. William was another Hague individual in the community where her family lived, and I can remember the very first time that I shared this with my son. And when he learned that he was named after someone who is no longer on the pedigree, yeah, his eyes got wider and wider. Well, there's lots of folks in there with William as a name, so we chose someone else. So, regardless, it's a beautiful way to display the fruits of our labors on your wall, sharing it with someone else in book form. I've had experience to do all of those, so we're thankful to Uri and thankful to MyHeritage for what we have learned here today. We're going to do a couple of announcements, some door prizes, and then, as I mentioned at the very beginning, Uri won't be able to be here for the live Q&A, and so I'll do my best to answer some of your questions, knowing that I see that there's someone here I just don't know the answers to, but we'll go live on the site together and try to answer your questions. Okay, so let's look at what's coming up here. So Roots Tech Roundup from MyHeritage. So you might know that Roots Tech begins next week on March the 3rd, and MyHeritage is indeed involved very much at Roots Tech, and I'm looking forward to hearing from Daniel Horowitz the following week on a recap of all of our major announcements for you. And then the next couple of weeks, we're going to learn from Masha Novak first on a deep dive into deep nostalgia, the wonderful photo animation tool. and then we'll learn about recording memories on the MyHeritage mobile app. All right, so if you want to learn more from Uri Gonen, he's got a good collection here in the library, and there's the URL there at the bottom, so familytreewebinars.com/Uri Gonen. Most recently, he taught us about the new family tree and relationship diagram. He's taught us about using the various views on MyHeritage, using different family tree views for our research, pedigree map, and more. Now, if you're wanting to learn a whole bunch more about MyHeritage, look at that. There's 69 classes there in the library now. I believe all of those are in the free area. And we've got 21 classes coming for you the remainder of the year. So familytreewebinars.com/myheritagewebinars is where you can register for future ones or go and view ones in the past. All right, door prize time. So I'll get out my random door prize picker tool here. And our first door prize will be the 1-year MyHeritage Complete Plan. So everything that Uri's shown here today is included if you have a complete plan. So you get the family tree, access to all of the records, and I think it was just today, I think, that if you head up to blog.myheritage.com, you could see the new announcement about the new Jewish record collections that were just announced. So that's exciting for those of you who need that. So let's go to the list of those of you who are here. And our first winner, I'm looking. All right. Looks like, and we'll say congrats to, writing down your name, Marlene. Marlene Ford. So congrats to you. So glad that you're here today. And as I mentioned earlier, we're gonna double up the door prizes here today. So I hope that's okay for some of you. I guess it gives you twice the chance. Well, it looks, my guess is Patricia Busby is just jumping up and down doing cartwheels after hearing her name as the second door prize winner for a 1-year MyHeritage Complete Plan membership. Now we're going to go to MyHeritage DNA Test Kit, and we'll say first congrats to Al Kaufman. Al, congratulations to you. I hope that was fun to hear your name on the air. And next we'll go to Gloria Masiak. So Gloria, congrats to you. All right. Okay, question time. First of all, yeah, Lisa, I agree. Lisa says this would make many wonderful presents for family members, and she even suggested that you, I think Lisa suggested this when we were talking about the book creation, was you might print this and donate your research to a local library. I like that idea. Kathy's excited to play around with all the options. All right. Okay, so Kay, who says this is amazing, Kay says, is this available even if you don't have a subscription? Well, I didn't know the answer to that, and so I'm here communicating with Daniel, who is live in Tel Aviv, and Daniel answered to me saying, yes, they are free, but you do need to register. So nice to know, and Kay, I hope that helps. Let's go live to answer this question about the costs and where we gain access to this. So this is my personal MyHeritage tree. So where we went to start all of this is just in the family tree menu, and then down right here to print charts and books, and that takes us here. So all of what we have been looking at here today can be printed to your printer, can be printed to a PDF, or can be ordered through the poster center. So if we were to, let's just take this bow tie one for example. There's step number 1. We come down here, and choose your chart style, and then we customize the chart. And this is where you choose, and several of you were asking, and I'm glad that Uri did show this, but this is specifically where we select a single page or multiple pages. Well, let's choose the single page and click on Generate Chart. And as he mentioned, the chart will be generated. It'll take a few minutes. You're going to get an email when it's ready. Don't flood my personal email account, please. But in the meantime, you could just hit the refresh button or the refresh link right here, and it'll just show up right here when it's ready. So this is the one right here that is in progress, the one that we just created. Here's one that I created 2 weeks ago in our live webinar called Ancestors of Roberta Feldstead. And here you can see these options down. First one is View PDF. And so by doing that, here, let me just go and put this on my desktop and we'll open it up. This is now in electronic format that I can now print to my printer right here. Or I could hit download. I've already downloaded it. So now it's in a format that I can attach as an email. So in that sense, I hope that answers those questions from you who are asking, can I share this in that way? And if you've got a larger chart like this one here, this is one, I really like this. If I click on it, this is the close family of me, and let's do it. Let's click on Preview Chart. Again, I'll just save it to my desktop. And I mean, look at that. We're viewing this at 9%. As I zoom in on this, I can see, I can see the finer details. This kind of a chart is where it makes sense for us to try to collect the photographs of our family. And what a beautiful chart this would make if I did have photos for everyone on here. It looks like I do for my individual part of the family. I've got some work to do to get the other pictures up. But so this is where you'd go and, well, this tells me this is going to be 13 feet. I love it. Well, if you want it to be larger and go up to 32 feet, I'm scared to click on that to see what the price difference is going to be. Yeah, it went up significantly if I really zoom in. So at 100%, pretty decent pricing. And these are the various options for the type of paper. Looks like we can laminate it, and then we'd go off to the shipping details. Now, this specific chart I actually did for a family reunion 3 or 4 years ago. And the reunion was all of the descendants of my great-grandparents on one side of the tree. And I chose the least expensive. And when we got there to the reunion, I had some help, and we hung this chart on the wall. And boy, was it fun to sit in that room to watch people just randomly come up and see where they are on that chart. Now, here's I was going to say a trick, but it was kind of a mean trick. When I was preparing this chart, I was really wanting to make sure to have as many photographs as I could on the chart, and so we know that we can generate the chart and as a PDF, and then we can email it to people. Well, so for some of the people who would not respond to my emails or other forms of communication about, please send me the pictures of your family. Well, I went out to Facebook and I found a silly photo of them, and I stuck it in the tree so it showed up on the chart, and then I emailed the chart to them as a PDF, and I asked them if they had any questions, and just about every single time it worked, and they finally sent me the pictures that I was after. So that was just it was a technique that worked well. All right, let's go back to other questions here. So Gail asking about the family book. Can that be printed or must that be ordered? So let's head back up. Let me just hit the back button here. And because I don't know the answer, so we're going to go family tree, and we'll go to print charts and books, and we'll go down to family book, and you do your customization. And those of you who are asking, can it include sources or notes? Yeah, here's where you can do that. Let's go ahead and click on generate book, and now it's going to be in that area. Yeah, now it's in progress. So we'll wait just for a couple of minutes to see what the choices are. My guess is I'm going to get another option to view the PDF at that, and I can open the PDF and I can hit the print button. So I think we've answered this already just by doing that. Here's that the one that we created 4 minutes ago with me and my ancestors on the left, my wife and her ancestors on the right, and then my children down below, and that is beautiful. Let me just, I want to look at that together live. Zoom out. Oh, I've got my kindergarten picture in here. I love it. All right, let's go and see other questions. Janice says, if I create a chart today and tomorrow a child is born, is that chart automatically updated the next time I look at the chart, or does it have to be regenerated anew? Yeah, you just need to go, well, first you need to go back to your tree. So you go into your tree, and then you go and add the new child right here. So we go add son or daughter. I'm not going to do this because that might be surprising to either me or my wife. And then go and regenerate the chart. And that's how you do that. Mary asks, can you generate a chart when logged into an iPad? The generate chart button on the bottom of the screen is grayed out. I asked Daniel about that too, and he mentioned as the iPad isn't, it's not a computer in the sense of a PC or a full Mac. Yeah, he said that you'll need to go to your computer for that. Carolyn says, I just tried the book and it's amazing. Well, good. I'm glad. Let's see other questions here that perhaps I could answer. Melinda says, yeah, that would make a nice border for the wall in my room, talking about that large wall chart, I think. We've got some suggestions in here that I will absolutely share with others. Edward has an interesting comment here. Talking about the all-in-one chart. He says it was able to, so Edward used the all-in-one chart to display nearly 100% of the people buried at a cemetery. Fascinating. Thanks for sharing that, Edward. Rosemary says, is it possible to include two photos of persons, a child or a teen photo, and the last photo of the elderly person? There's just one place for the primary picture, but a thought just came to my mind that using Photoshop or Photoshop Elements or some kind of photo editing program, you absolutely could combine two pictures and save it as one image. And in that, and the pictures, the photos, I guess they'd be quite a bit smaller, but yeah, that's how I would do it, Rosemary. I've done it here on Webinar Wednesdays at FamilyTreeWebinars.com, and I did it recently when Dear Myrtle and Russ Worthington were live. And if you go back to that webinar replay, you can see how I did that. All right. Looking at, Stephen says, if the file, so if the PDF that you create of the chart, if it's too large, what might one do? You know, if you're using, what I've noticed, Stephen, is if you're using at Gmail, and you can attach a file that's as large as, I mean, really, really large. And if it's too large to send in an email, it creates a link. It actually uploads the file to your Google Drive, and then it automatically generates a link that can be clicked on. So that's one advantage, I suppose, of using Gmail in connection to Google Drive. Otherwise, there's other technology tools out there that allow you to do that. Martin, thanks for this comment. He says large PDFs can also be printed on huge banners of paper by legal printing businesses. They're businesses that normally print legal documents for law firms or government agencies. Even over at Staples is a printing store nearby me. Yeah, you could take in a PDF of any of these charts to them, and they will happily print it. So I like that. Michael says, I'm writing a paper about my second great-grandfather. Can I include a MyHeritage chart of his nearest relatives? Yeah, lots of ways of doing that, Michael. Yeah, I've done that in different ways previously. If you're creating this in something like Microsoft Word or some kind of a word processor, I would think that you could generate the PDF file here at MyHeritage, then insert the PDF as to be one of the pages in your Word document. Or you could even, with the chart being displayed on the screen, you can do a screen capture with like your print screen button on your keyboard or with the Snagit software, and then you can insert that into your book. So yeah, lots of ways of doing that. Okay, going to glance at other comments and questions. Carolyn asks about Family Tree Builder. Yeah, Family Tree Builder is a download. It's on up at myheritage.com. You might just go to Google and type in Family Tree Builder in quotes, and that it's a free download. Michael says, any legal issues with MyHeritage? No, the data that you've compiled and you're publishing, you own that. You own the chart. Maybe verify that with Daniel Horowitz, but no, I'm certain that there aren't any issues with that. Okay, I want to do this one live. This is a question from Rosemary, talking about the background images from charts. Can we use our own photo as a background? I've done it in other tools. Let's see if we're able to do it here. I'm not sure. So you can see, so if I select the Bowtie chart, it's got a default background image of this light tree. And we've got these various styles. So in the various styles, it has different background images. And let's say that I select this one. I'm looking down here to see, can I insert my own? I don't see it right here. And if you know out there if it can be done, do a chat here into my chat area. Otherwise, will one of you out there send me an email, and I'm going to send that as an idea to over to Uri. By the way, Uri was telling me earlier that he's got some fantastic new charting or charts that will be announced at Roots Tech. So I'm looking forward to that. Kathy says that she believes Uri said that you can, and maybe it's on one of these other charts that I haven't explored here. But yeah, I don't see it just right here. Oh, Stephen says under advanced customization. Oh, I'm embarrassed that I didn't even notice that. Thank you so much. So here's advanced customization options. Photos, the design, the decoration, and here we go. Okay, thank you. So we can grab an image from a URL. I wonder if I click here. Okay, we can see that there's different ones to select from there. I'd love to see the ability to upload my own. And yeah, you can, if you find something online, you can just put in the URL there. Oh, good, you can adjust the transparency. I love that. but uploading our own. Send me an email, someone out there, and I'll ask Uri about that. And if it's not here, and I'm not really seeing it, then we'll see if he can add that. All right. Well, everybody, I hope this has been somewhat helpful for you today. Thank you for your understanding with the format on how we've done this. I hope that it's inspired you. I hope that it's given you some ideas as how to present your life's work. We've got lots of really fantastic ideas here. So with all of that, good luck. Thanks for sharing part of your day with us. And remember, life is short. Do genealogy first. Bye, everyone.